My guest right now is undisputed. And the music's not playing again. My guest right now is undisputed. That's also the title of his New York Times bestseller. He is a rock and roller extraordinaire, the last man cut from the gold medal winning Canadian Olympic hockey team, the first undisputed champ in WWE history, the author of the second and third best wrestling books ever. He's a New Jack cop that can take down a New Jack gangster. Break the walls down, rage against the machine, get down with the boogie, and put your hands together, Jack. For the man who nailed my dream girl and bragged about it in his first book, he is Chris Jericho. Jericho, sorry for the up and down introduction. Your new book, I'm sure it's fabulous. How come I don't have a free copy?
Well, I mean, that's one of those things. I think the fact that I put your name into the first book, that means that you should go out and buy a copy of the second book. Isn't that only fair? I mean, I gave you a shameless name drop in number one in hopes that you'd take the $15.99 and go buy your own version of it, of number two. So I kind of feel a little bit slighted. And on top of that, you call my books the second and third best books of wrestling books of all time. Forget about China's book already. Wasn't that good? Mine is better than both of them.
I'm talking about the book that's on every wrestling fan's coffee table, Jericho, Ric Flair to Be the Man. Don't get me wrong. You're a strong second and a strong third. But first, come on. Madden, editor, New York Times bestseller as well. It's an easy tiebreaker, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but your name wasn't in Flair's book. Your name was in The Lion's Tail, so that should give it some kind of an edge.
No, my name was in Flair's book because I wrote it in. Anyway, Jericho, let's move on. I'm told you have a big announcement, a huge announcement. I want it here. No pulling punches. What is coming up Chris Jericho's street?
Well, it's funny because you hear a lot of rumors, a lot of things going on, but the announcement that I've been kind of hinting at over the last couple of weeks is actually music related more than anything else. And it's funny how things kind of take off and get out of control. But yeah, I'm still waiting on the final confirmation for my big announcement. But it's not the big announcement that everyone else has been saying. So
you will not be on Dancing with the Stars?
No, I will not be on Dancing with the Stars, and I will not be the lead singer of Velvet Revolver. Those are the two big rumors that I've been hearing over and over again, and it's not either one of those. So I wish I could tell you, but I'm still waiting for the confirmation to be very timely to be able to tell it today. But that's what happens when you're in show business, Madden, as you and I are. You have to wait until the dotted line is signed before you say anything, because if it falls through, then you look stupid.
And even then, it really means nothing. Believe me, I know. Now, you are very diversified. Author, rock star, game show host, wrestler, soldier, tailor, tinker, spy. Is that how you keep sane? The availability of so many things to pursue as opposed to living in the wrestling bubble?
Well, the thing is, the difference is, Mark, is that I started out wanting to be a wrestler and a rock star. I wanted to be in a rock and roll band. And I've been playing in bands since I was like 12 years old. So when wrestling kind of took off first, I always had my eye on music. I always enjoyed acting because that's what I always treated wrestling as show business. I enjoyed writing. So I never really just considered myself to be a wrestler guy. I considered myself to be an entertainer, to be a guy who was in show business. And I think that's the difference. I never looked at wrestling as a sport. It's very athletic, but it's also, to me, was always more about the show and about the personality and about the charisma. And when I first started, I was small. I mean, all the guys were like 6'8" and 300 pounds. You're dealing with 1990, and those are the guys that were the big stars. So I said, well, how can I be as big of a star as these guys, and even though I'm not physically as big? And that was to be, the biggest charisma, the biggest personality. So my initial inspirations for wrestling weren't Hulk Hogan or Ricky Steamboat or whatever. They were Paul Stanley, David Lee Roth, guys like that were over-the-top party hosts. And that's the way I always treated my entire career. So I never put myself into one specific box. I just figured if it was creative and it was entertaining that I could do it. And that's why I've kind of done all these different things over the years.
What's your current status? Which of your endeavors is currently front and center?
Well, I left the WWE in September because my contract was up, and I had a lot of stuff going on with Fozzy. We're very fortunate that we have a great international fan base, so I've been England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, France, Australia, all across Canada. That's just in the last couple months since I left the WWE, and then I knew the book was coming out, so I had to do a lot of work on that and the whole promotional tour that I'm in the middle of right now. So that's kind of what's been going front and center. And like I said, to me, the musician part was always just as much of a passion and just as much of a dream as the wrestling part. So when the band started to roll and take off, I really wanted to be there and to kind of ride the wave, because as you know, when the iron's hot, you got to take advantage of it. So, and that's one of the reasons why I think Undisputed is doing really good, is because it's just as much of a rock and roll story as it is a wrestling story, and that's the way I wrote it. I didn't write the book for wrestling fans because I knew they would like it anyways. I wrote it for people who are fans of show business and people who are fans of anybody that has an interesting story and an interesting dream that they followed. So, and that's paid off for both of my books, in that they're more diverse than just, I gave them a body slam and a hip toss and that sort of a deal.
Now, despite all your interests, wrestling is clearly the love of your life. It's something you pursued since you were a kid. Why do you periodically ditch it?
Well, I think I already answered that. It's like wrestling is the love of my life, but so is music. Those are the two things. Like I was crazy enough when I was a kid to think these are my two dreams that I want to do.
Well, right, but what I'm getting at, Chris, is it seems like every so often you have a periodic dissatisfaction with wrestling about the way it's headed, about the way it's run. Did that have anything to do with you leaving WWE in September?
No, it didn't. It did. Honestly, it didn't. In 2005, it did. In 2007, in 2010, not at all. I mean, frankly, my contract just was up, and I had all this stuff going on with Fozzy, like I said, so... I'm actually, in 2005 when I left, I was totally not into wrestling. I was burned out. I was disgruntled. I wasn't happy with my performances. I wasn't happy with where I was within the company. This time, I'm just as much of a fan, even more so. I keep an eye on what's going on. I watched the Royal Rumble. I didn't get to watch the pay-per-view last night because I was traveling, but I talk to Vince all the time, so it's a whole different vibe this time. I still feel like I'm part of the company this time, whereas last time I just felt like an outcast, and I just wanted to kind of rid myself of the whole business. And it took about a year and a half before I even watched wrestling again or even paid any attention to what was going on. And it's not like that this time. This time is a completely different atmosphere.